the Monday classes really didn't get that off. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through these. Move this over so I can see. Okay, one-time special order. And we talked about this before, obviously, and that the only thing we have to worry about is the special order itself. Because the regular production is going to be there whether we take the special order or not. So, for something to be relevant, it has to, the terminology has to differ between alternatives. So it's sort of like this. You don't have to write this down. So alternatives is that we do the regular production and take the special order. Or we do the regular production and no special order. So these are the alternatives. Now, if we're doing this, the only relevant information is going to be the special order, because the regular production, these are the same. They're not going to change. So because those aren't going to change, because they're not going to change, it's not relevant. Again, we're not saying it doesn't happen. Not saying it's not important. It's probably more important than the special order. But for our decision on the special order, we don't need to do the regular production. Now, there's nothing wrong if we do it. It's not going to change our answer. But the only thing that's going to differ between these two is the special order. So that's the only thing that we're going to look into. Okay. So this is the special order only, because we do not need the regular production. And again, we could put it in, but it's not needed for the decision though. And we're going to look at for the additional sales. Subtract out the additional variable cost. Oops, why is that like that? Let's try that again. I'm sorry. There we go. Subtract out the additional fixed costs. And we get our additional income. The book uses the term operating income, but well, in this, no, for the financial terms, it wouldn't be right. But it doesn't matter. It's you just think about your income, how much will increase your income. Okay, so this is the one-time special order, and this is what we're going to focus on. Now, we might need some of the data from down here. We are going to actually the variable cost, but for the selling price and that, it's just all up here. Okay, so special order is for 5,000 units. Is there anything that does not have the handouts? I send them out very late. I send them out after 6. So if you don't have them, let me know. time for a calculator. Okay, so 35,000 is coming in. Just on variable cost, we have our units, which is 5,000. And by the way, I'll make sure you get the, if there's one thing people miss on here, these two are going to be exactly the same. So the units are going to be exactly the same. The variable cost, the units are going to be exactly the same as for each other. So whatever number you're selling to them, this is going to be exactly the same. There's probably a better way to do this, but I've gotten a little, I wasn't great to begin with, and now I got a little more rusty with this. Okay, so now the question is, what's the variable cost per unit? And if anyone can figure it out, because it's not given to you directly anyways. If anyone can figure it out, if you yell it out or put it in chat. So we're looking for the variable cost per unit. There's going to be a variable cost with each of these. Question is, what is it? How much is it? Okay. Something happened here. Now let me see the chat. Come on, show me. What's it doing? All right, I gotta stop sharing for a second. Let's see. It's well, here is the total number of items produced. And here are the variable costs. So we're going to divide those. It's going to mess up my spacing, but oh well. All right, so 90,000 divided by 18,000 is some number. We have 5? I think it's 5. Let me see, 18,000. No, 90,000 divided by. So it's $5 per unit. I should say variable per unit or variable cost. So, this will be $5. And this is going to be negative. This is cost 25,000. Use 25,000. So there's our additional sales. All right, and the tricky question, what is the additional fixed cost? Oh, you guys know this. You're toying with.
Would that be 0?
Yeah, now if fixed cost did change, we put something in there, but there's no more. There's no fixed cost, additional fixed cost. So, yeah, and fixed costs in general will be are generally not relevant. Okay, so additional income is what, 10,000? A positive 10,000. Yeah. Ah. I'll make it just. Yeah, so additional income would be 10,000, and so we would want to take it. Usually accept the special order. Yes. Yep. So income will increase by $10,000 if the special order is accepted. So yeah, you would want to do that. And I think we talked about this a little bit before, but you know, theoretically, if you, that's why when they talk about it in economics, that if your selling price covers your marginal cost, well, this is your marginal cost. So those are your revenues. That's your marginal cost. And so as long as your revenues cover your marginal cost, you produce. So as long as your selling price covers your variable cost, you produce it. And yeah, I think I told you guys too that the author of this book, he's not alive anymore. Actually, the main author is Horngren. He was kind of the first one that made that. You know, they said you could actually use the economic ideas for real life stuff. You know, it was kind of economics with this kind of wacky stuff and wasn't really related to real life. Okay. All right. Make or buy. And the make or buy decision is basically based on cost. Oh, I don't know where to put it. I'll put it up here. I'm going to put it up here and I'll take it away. Make or buy. Do you want to produce the item yourself or have someone else do it? So it's kind of like this. Again, you do not need to put this in. So alternative A, so the price is going to be the same for each one. Space that a little bit better. We're basically looking at the cost. So, since these are the same, again, we're not saying they didn't happen. We're just saying that they don't have anything to do for our decision. So we're looking at the cost of make or buy. And for cost, you're looking at simply what can you, the total cost of making them or buying. It's not 100% true, but close enough. No, the way I showed you, it is the way you do it. So the total cost for making it versus the total cost for buying it. And the one, the selling price will be exactly the same in each one. Okay, I don't think I discussed this one, but this is actually another. Andy looks hilarious. This is actually another one of those economic things that is that was adapted basically that you use in real life. And the economic principle is that how do you maximize income? And in economics, they'll tell you about most, that you're basically a price taker. In other words, that you can't charge someone $200,000 for a minivan. They're not going to pay it. So your sales are kind of locked in by whatever the market is. So the only way that you can change your profit is through your cost, because theoretically, whatever the market bears is the sales. So you can't change that. You'd love to change. You'd love to sell minivans for $200,000, but no one will buy them. So the only thing you can change is the cost. So maximizing your income under those kind of constraints is the same thing as minimizing your cost. So trying to get your cost as low as possible is the way you maximize your income, because the sales you don't control. So that's another economic theory that gets kind of adapted for this. Basically, Horniman said, no, that's not just theoretical. That you can actually apply it to real world stuff. Okay. So it says these are the costs below. So these are the costs to make. And we'll simply add those up. All right, so the total cost will be $100,000 plus $200,000. $400,000. Okay, so the total cost to make can't remember how you did this before. I can't remember what I did in the handout. Did I put it side by side or did I put it underneath? I think I put it underneath. In fact, I may just cheat and go back and see what I did. How did I show this? I did it underneath. Okay, that's all I need to know. Okay, so cost to buy. Now, you don't need to put these in. I'm going to put these in just for kicks. But obviously, if you're buying them from somebody else, you don't need to pay employees for not making anything. You don't need to buy materials to make it if you're not making any. Variable overhead is whatever, let's use to, for instance, like electricity or something like that. Well, if you're not making any, you don't need to have that overhead. Fixed costs are a little bit tricky. Okay, so well, here. So fixed costs were 400,000, but they tell us that they could be avoided. That's not how you spell avoided. Okay, avoided fixed costs were 250,000. And so this would be the fixed cost, the leftover fixed cost, or I don't know what that is. Still fixed if you take the special order. I know, remaining fixed. How about that? Oh, come on. Okay. So main fixed cost would be 150,000, so it'll be 150,000. And I still need to put in the cost to buy. And that was 20,000 units. Yeah, $60 each.
Professor, I'm sorry. Why did you switch the fixed overhead from 400,000 to 150?
Because of this down here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and generally, the fixed cost wouldn't change.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And that's the only reason why they're relevant. And actually, the book will tell you that this is the only relevant amount. I gave you the totals, but you can see that, and here's why. I'll tell you why in a second. But truthfully, only the 250 is relevant because this 150 is going to be there with either way. But again, here's the thing about costs that aren't relevant. As long as you put them in both sides, it's not going to make any difference. So Anyway, so this would be, what is that one? 20 times 20,000, 60, 1,200,000. Uh, 1,300,000. No, 50. Yeah, so basically this is, the cost of make them is 1,400,000. So it's kind of funny over here. So, the question is, do you want to pay 140,000 or why is you 1,400,000 or 1,350,000? Well, you'd rather do this on here, 1,350,000. So should next way accept the offer? Yes. And why? It is what, $50,000 cheaper? And okay, so yeah, let me get rid of this stuff. Okay. Space. Okay. A B, and on the test, this is extra credit. The B will be extra credit on this one. How much additional cost savings do you need to be found for an overall savings of 120,000 if the order is accepted? And if you have that, yell it out or put it in the chat. So suppose if they say, look, we're not going to do this, and we want to, we're going to have to, lay people off and have all this other stuff going on, to upset our business. So unless we can get significant savings, we're not going to do it. So they say we need an overall savings of 120,000. So how much, there's already a savings of 50,000, but how much additional savings are they going to need?
70.
Yep. Say, yeah, and you just put it into an equation. So X already it's $50,000 better, but we're not going to just change over. It's got to be significant. Theoretically, if it was a penny difference, you would do it, but in real life, that doesn't work that way. So the question is, how much you have to be? So you can just solve this for X. And so you'll end up with X equals 70,000. And so you'd say, look, you got to take $70,000 more out of it before we would do it. And again, as I'm sure you're aware, this is a lot of times you get stuff like this. It's it's the start of a negotiation that goes around. Okay, well, we need to get this much out, or we need to, well, we can't do it for that number. Well, what number can you do it for? Okay, then you start going back and forth. So, so additional cost savings would have to be. I said that wrong. Additional cost savings would be 70,000. And on the test, that'll be extra credit. Okay. I made it smaller. Anyway. Okay. This is similar to what we talked about. So last class, I think it was last class. Equipment replacement decision. No, we didn't. Last time we did optimization. Right. Okay, so this class, so this will be we have an old scanner and a new scanner, and the question is, do we need to buy, or should we buy the new scanner? Okay. So the old scanner costs 30,000, new scanner costs 40,000. These are the operating costs. Now you'll notice that these differ, right? Those are relevant. In these life and years, we're going to need that to know how much these are, because these get multiplied. And there's the current salvage value of the old scanner. And so yeah, there's asked about this. Well, what about in 4 years? And so I just put it in the W0. If these had number, if there were a salvage value in 4 years that was more than 0, you would put those in as pluses. Well, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, no, it would be plus for whatever side it is. Which side you're looking at. Okay, so old scanner, new scanner. There is a cost on here that is not relevant. What is it?
The current value, the salvage value.
Salvage value actually is, because if we buy the new scanner, we'll sell the old one.
Also, it's
Which cost on there can't you change? You have no control over.
the actual cost.
Yep. The cost of the old scanner is sunk. You can't cross out. There it is. The reason being, this is what they call a sunk cost. Oops. Not a B cost, a sunk cost. So
Wait a
this.
second.
You can't jump in the time machine and go back and change what you paid for it. Okay. Now the new one, this you have control over. You can buy the new scanner or not buy the new scanner. The remaining useful life, this is like how long they're going to last for. And I made them the same. It makes it easier if they're the same. The idea is exactly the same, but it can make a little bit of difference. Sometimes you have to weight them, but I don't worry about that. And so, here's a question. So, okay, well, should we buy it? Now, again, we can't change this old scanner. The price you pay for something, the historical costs are never relevant. Now, these annual operating costs are. So what would be the cost savings if we had the new scanner? Okay, so let's say we purchased the new scanner. And let's kind of go through here. Okay, the cost of the new scanner. That is relevant because that would be what we would have to pay for it. And it would be negative. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this one. The annual operating costs are $25,000 for the old, and $12,000 for the new. And these also have remaining life of 4 years. So it's going to be that for 4 years. So here's a question. What will be the total operating savings over its life of 4 years? So what will be the total operating savings? yell it out if you think you have it.
Are we talking about the new one or the old one?
We're talking about what would be the savings if you buy the new one? So if you buy the new one, how much are you going to save on operating costs? So if we buy the new one, we purchase the new scanner. Oh, can't do that.
Is it 52,000?
You know, I asked the question. I don't know the answer. I think it is. It'd be 13. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So if you subtract these, this will give you it per year. And I just realized I should insert a row here. So this is the savings per year, 13,000. And this is for 4 years, right? So this will be hey, that should be a little less. So the savings will be, like I said, 52,000. Okay, so far we have this. And we've got savings of that. And there's one more thing. If we buy the new one, what can we do with the old one?
Sell it.
Yep. So we can sell the old scanner, and that is a value right now of 15,000. Okay, and so the basic cost, the net cost savings. Would be whatever that comes out to. So oops. My calculator's not turning on. Okay, so negative 40,000. 52,000. 47,000.
Yes.
And so how much additional income would be realized if there's a scanner? Oh, it should be purchased. I haven't made the test up for this. It's changed around a little bit, but I'm already, as we go through here, there's gonna be a few upgrades. Should be purchased? Yes. Make that a capital. Purchasing scanner will add 27,000. So first thing, the learn how to use a mouse. So purchasing the purchasing the new scanner will add 27,000. I know how to get purchasing the new scanner will add. Purchasing the new scanner will add 27,000 to the net income over the next 4 years. So you'd want to do it. And by the way, one thing that when it comes to doing stuff like this, that you run into is you very well have someone say, "Wait a minute, we just paid $30,000 for the scanner, you know, the old one. We're not going to sell. We just paid 30,000 for it." You know, and the problem with that is that it's going to cost you $27,000 to hold on to it, basically. And so, you know, one of the reasons why this book was so you know, so groundbreaking was just for that reason. Yeah, people who, you know, say, "Oh wait, we just did this." Well, technology is changing so quickly that, you know, as it was back in the 1960s, it's doing the same thing now. Technology is changing so quickly that many times, you know, you're better off just getting, you know, cutting your losses right now. Hey, I told you guys LED lights. You know, say, "Well, I'll wait till my old lights burn out." Well, you're going to pay quite a bit to keep those old lights in. And you're better off just to go ahead and buy the LED lights that are going to last for decades, cost a tenth as much to operate them and so forth. So, okay, let's go back to sharing. Okay. And this is the easiest one. It basically has to do with allocated costs. And allocated costs are basically costs that would be hard to something's wrong here. I gotta do something. Sorry, I gotta stop sharing. There we go. No, my head is not okay. My head is I hit myself with a fence post. Not on purpose though. I was trying to help my 71-year-old father-in-law pull out a post. So I'm struggling with it. So I went over to help, you know, and knocked myself up. Anyway, no, I'm fine. All right. No. All right. So for some reason it's hiding. Whenever you guys send me a chat, it's hiding. Yeah. There must be something blocking it on my screen. I don't know what. Anyway, so basically, allocated costs. These are actually the real problem when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Is that allocated costs a lot of times are not avoidable. So the allocated costs, and here's how they kind of come about. They're usually from like headquarters, something like that. And if you're in a company that has maybe several divisions, what happens is the headquarters itself doesn't make any money. You know, the president of Walmart actually doesn't make any money for Walmart, not directly anyways. You know, they're not working in the store, they're not doing it, you know, so they're not actually what they call a profit center. They're not, there's no sales coming out of the headquarters. The sales are all coming out of the stores and so forth. So what they do is they take the cost from the headquarters. So president of the company, the accounting department, the marketing department, whatever else they have, and they will allocate it to the different departments and different stores and so on and so forth. So those headquarter costs get split up among a bunch of, bunch of divisions. The problem is, if you eliminate one of those divisions, you don't get rid of the cost. Just because you get rid of, one of a Walmart store, doesn't mean there's a corresponding, oh, we don't need the president of the company anymore. No, you still have the president of the company. It's just that those costs are really not anything that can, closing a division is going to change those. Just because you close that store doesn't mean the marketing is going to change. Doesn't mean the accounting is going to change. Doesn't mean the legal department's going to change. So all those things that are associated with the headquarters, which does not make any money. You can't walk into the Walmart headquarters and buy anything like that. Those costs are all allocated. They're split up among all the other stores. And so when you're making a decision to whether to close the store or not, those costs are basically not relevant. Why? Because they're not going to change. So if you close a Walmart store, it's not going to change anything in the marketing department probably or anything else. So those costs will all be those allocated costs will simply have to be picked up by somebody else. So if you're splitting up the cost among 5,000 stores, you close one, well, now 4,999 stores are going to be allocated those costs. Those costs are going to go somewhere. And so that's kind of the whole idea behind allocated costs. And by the way, if you're ever in a company that gets bought out, that's not real pains. Not only do they come in and fire half the people, but also they'll say, okay, we have all these costs that now you thought you were unprofitable before. Well, wait till we're done with it because now you get these costs allocated. So the allocated costs though are not relevant to the decisions because they don't change. Okay, so here we have the travel model here. Looks like it's not doing very well. And so the question is, should we get rid of this travel model? Because it's losing $30,000. And basically, I'm sure you guys have picked up on the game here. If the allocated cost is more than the loss for that division, you want to keep it open. It might not be covering all 30,000 of it, but it's going to be covering what, 19,000 of it. So these costs, these fixed allocated costs, are really not relevant. And Don, you can do this anywhere you want. There's several ways to, figure this one out. But one way is to simply work all the calculations without the allocated costs. So you can just put those all at zero and work out the calculations, and they'd all be profitable. But another way that's a little bit maybe more dramatic is this. So I'm going to get rid of everything that we can get rid of in the travel. Now this is going to make this a minus 30,000. Forgetting about what, the totals over here will change too. But even forgetting about that, you can already see, which would you rather lose, 11,000 or 30,000? You know, these are exactly the same. If you leave it like this, so you can already see that this would be a bad deal. And if you worked out the numbers here, this would be the same thing. 26 and 27. 53. And 45,000. All right, whatever that comes out to. So lots of zero. So if you eliminate this travel model, your income is going to go from 29,000 down to 10,000. Long story short, you shouldn't eliminate the travel model. And if a kind of a quick way to look at this and say, okay, well, whatever is allocated, we'll just compare that to whether the income, what the income or loss is for it. Now, if the loss was 38,000, then yeah, you should get rid of it because it's losing not only the 30,000 but 8,000 of real dollars basically. But in this case, it's only losing it, so it's covering 19,000. You can kind of see the difference between these two is 19,000. So should it be a no? How much additional income will be realized by eliminating the model? I shouldn't say the home model, it should be the travel model. So income will decrease by 19,000. That's the if the travel model line is eliminated. So you don't want to do it. Question on that? Yeah, so I'll send out the exam Probably tonight. If not tonight, certainly by tomorrow, I'll have the exam out. But the yeah, and I'm gonna make sure I go through, make sure it's not all messed up. Anyway, so you guys should get that, and it will be due. If I send it out tomorrow, it'll be due 28th. Be a week plus a day. No, well, let's just say it's gonna be the 28th. So it'll be due April 28th. So the chapter 21. And I know I didn't do your guys grading out. I'll get that in too shortly here. I can't remember what date I put. I'm sorry, I can't remember what date I put on for the due date, but it doesn't really, it doesn't matter, whatever you return. Okay, so I guess you gonna take a break? Like a, I don't know, what is it, 5-minute break maybe? 7.
Yes.
All right, you know, we'll take a break, like 7:25-ish, come back, and then we'll get started on the chapter 21. Hopefully we get through the time value of money stuff, or at least some of it. Okay, so let me switch camera. No, I don't want to switch camera. Let's share. Oh, I want that. All right, so we'll say be back. At 7:25. I guess I don't need to put in PM here, but actually, I think I don't know if I told you guys, I have a student that's doing a class from Thailand, and they're 12 hours apart. So our 6 o'clock class at night is 6 a.m. It's a 6 a.m. class for him in Thailand. So it's a little bit rough. Okay.
Hey, Professor, can you go over that last problem one more time? If you, or, well, I guess I can watch the recording if you don't have time.
No, that's fine. Let's see. Yeah. So basically, it's the fixed allocated cost of the problem, and because they are not directly related to any of the businesses, they just kind of get allocated to it. They get handed to them basically. That those costs won't change. So you see that these. Highlight those. Anyway, you see that these numbers, these the 45,000 of these fixed cost allocated fixed costs. Those aren't going to change. So they're really not relevant. And here's the problem is that you might have a division, for instance, this is the travel model. And the travel model says, look, they're losing $11,000. But 30,000 of that is actually what they call allocated. Is being given to them from, say, the headquarters. It has nothing to do with their business. So while they're not as profitable maybe as they want to be, they're still covering 19,000 of that 30,000. So down here it says, okay, what if it was eliminated? What if we discontinued the travel model, or discontinued? Well, those costs would all be the same, the allocated costs. And so what you'd be looking at is the difference between, if you have it open, if you have that business open, you'll be making 29,000. If you close it, you're going to be down to 10,000. Moral of the story, don't close the travel mode. So anytime that you're making more, any losses are less than the allocated cost, you want to keep it open. And you can kind of, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind it. There's a number of different ways you can look at it too. That if you do all your calculations without the allocated costs, that's a more appropriate way to do it because they're not really relevant. They're not going to change. So, yeah. And again, this is one of those things that, is not always apparent. People look at a division and go, oh, this place has been losing money and, we should get rid of it. And that may not be, because if there's allocated costs in there, that may not be the best thing to do. And there is one more thing that is kind of, and this kind of came into play a lot when companies really started to start cutting down. Every now and then, a company, they'll start going through cost cutting, and they start shaving off. Okay, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. And they start cutting all these costs. And sometimes it's necessary, but sometimes, after a while, you end up with nothing to sell. You end up with, so sometimes, having another hook in the water. In this case, whatever it was, travel. Oops, wrong thing. The travel model. If you give up that line, getting back into that market might be really hard. And so sometimes, it has definitely happened where companies have spun off so many things that they end up with one or two products that are selling. And if anything happens to those one or two products, they're out of business. They used to have 10 products, now they have 2. Their prospects really decrease quite a bit. So eliminating divisions is always something that you should, the companies usually, especially nowadays, I think they take a little more seriously, whereas in the past they were just very quickly to get rid of them. And a lot of times, again, they shouldn't have gotten rid of them, just because they show negative for that division. If those are allocated costs, it doesn't make sense to get rid of it. Okay, so and by the way, that's another thing about this book that was different than the way they did business before. The way they did business before, they would tell you, okay, so it's not covering these allocated costs like it's supposed to cover. You close it down. It's a bad idea. But really, kind of leading up until this book, while the economist said don't close it, companies they would include all the costs. They include the allocated costs. They include all the fixed costs. They include all these costs that have nothing to do with the decision. And that's why you have these like I told you that a lot of companies, they did not stay open past 6 o'clock. A lot of grocery stores that close at 6 o'clock. One day a week they'd have an 8 o'clock night. Friday was 8 o'clock. You don't see too many businesses like that anymore. Okay, let's go to present value handout. Is that the right one here? Yeah, this is the right one. I didn't update the date. This is the 2020. All right. All right, so time value of money, and there is a reason why we're doing the time value of money, and I'm gonna do it on a piece of paper. Here. Bite a doggy. Doggy back. All right. It's not like this. Chapter 11 was on short-term decisions. And the short-term decisions are, usually done within a year, and you'll have variable and fixed costs. Just like we've been working with. So short-term decisions, variable and fixed costs. And we just did a whole bunch of stuff on those. Okay, chapter 21 is about long-term decisions. And long-term decisions kind of have two different things that are different about them. Long-term decisions, all costs are variable. For example, let's say that you have factories. From one day to the next, let's say you have 3 factories. 1, 2, 3, you have 3 factories. Now, in the long term, you can add factories. Or you can eliminate factories. So, even things like buildings and that, those are all variable in the long term. Now, because all costs are variable in the long term, they're all relevant. Oops. Now, there is one more thing that comes into play, and that is the time value of money. Now, the time value of money, it does come into play in the short term, but usually it's not very much. Right? So, that's right, I had this on a large screen. Shoot. Sorry, guys. Long-term decisions. All costs are variable. You know, if you had a factory, you can make one. You know, you may have 5 factories. You could close factories. So even the factories, say, are variable. And because of that, all costs are relevant. Although it, you know, and also we have the time value of money. So the two kind of differences here between long-term and short-term. The first one is all costs are variable. We don't have any fixed costs. You know, if we're talking about factories, you can have more or less, whatever. So their all costs are variable. And second is that the time value of money comes into play. And again, it does, the time value of money does happen up here, but it's usually such a small amount that it doesn't matter. So, you know, the time value of money, that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. Time value of money is, we're not saying that it doesn't happen in the short term. It just usually happens at such a, it's usually not relevant because of the short period of time. The value between $1 today and $1 tomorrow, you know, virtually nothing. So it does change over time, but it's usually, you know, you're doing short-term decisions. It's usually the change is usually fairly small. And long-term, however, the change it can be quite significant. Getting $1 today versus getting $1 20 years from now. Which one's going to be worth more? $1 today or $1 20 years from now? You can put it in chat if you want.
$1 today.
Yeah, $1 today's going to buy more because of inflation. You know, and so your parents tell you, "Oh, we used to go to the movies for $1." You know, well, yeah, that $1 was worth way more than $1 today. It's not the same thing as apples and oranges. So that's one of the things that we have to take into account for long term is that $1 is not the same today versus, you know, 5 years, 10 years now. The difference between today and tomorrow, very small, but it can come into play as time goes on. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at for first we're going to do the time value of money, then we're going to kind of see how it actually goes into the model here. Okay, now there are, let me do something here. We actually have tables for these. Okay, so in this first one here, grandma promises to pay her grandchild $1,000 in 3 years. The discount rate, inflation rate is 6%. Okay, so here's kind of what we're looking at for this one. It'll look like this. Okay, so I should start this over further. Now we'll leave it there. 1, 2, 3. So grandma's going to pay $1,000, but she's not going to do it for 3 years. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I do have to change this. This is today. Let me start over. So grandma's going to give $1,000 in 3 years. Now, you say, okay, well, what is that grandma's gift worth today? Now, we know that money in the future is going to be worth less. The question is how much less? And that's where the tables come in. Now, I sent you guys, well, first of all, there's tables at the end of this handout. If you go all the way to the end of the handout, these are the tables, and they're kind of hard to read. And I'm probably going to end up redoing those at some point, but there's also two sets of there's the PDF files that have them, and what we're going to use is a single payment table. So the PDF file looks like this, and there's also an Excel table. I can probably use this. I can use this table, I think. So we're gonna look at the single payment table. There's also an Excel table on there too, if you want to take a look at that. If you like using Excel, it's there's an Excel table I sent out. It looks like that. I'm gonna use this table instead. They're all the same, by the way. There's nothing different about it. Okay, well, let's just kind of look at this table for a second, though. So this is a single payment table. And here's the different interest rates. So, you know, think about inflation, 1%, 2%, 3%, you know, you go up there. And then there's also this time period. So, you know, at 1%, 10 years from now. And by the way, these are for the value of $1. So everyone's for a value of $1. Okay. Sometimes it's easier just to kind of jump in and see what we're talking about here on the problem. So I'll come back to that one. Okay. So what we're going to do with grandma's gift here is say, okay, we want to bring this back to today. How much is grandma's gift worth today? We know that it's $1,000 3 years from now, but that's not going to buy as much as today's dollars. So how much in today's dollars is grandma's gift worth? Okay, so first of all, it's a single payment. Number of periods is 3. And the interest rate is 6%. I should probably do this more efficient. Okay. So it's a single payment. It's for 3 periods. And the interest rate is 6%. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So here's the gift. And it is $1,000. And we are going to go to our table. And see what we're going to multiply this by. Okay, so on the table, 1,000, so 3 years, 6%. Okay. So on the table, we know that it's at 6%. 3 years, 3 periods. And so this is what's going to be our factor. So every dollar at 6%, every dollar 3 years from now is going to be worth about 84 cents. Okay, so that's in this table how you use it. It's for present value of a dollar. And that each dollar is worth 0.80, about 84 cents. So 6%. So coming back to grandma. Her present value of her gift is, was it $840? Because, you know, if we get the dollars, grandma gave us 1,000 of them, or whoever she gave this to, her grandchild. You know, so that is what this is going to be worth today, $840. Question on that? So here's another way of saying this. You can buy for $840 today. You know, you can buy the same thing 3 years from now for $1,000. Why? Those are different dollars. These dollars are not the same as these dollars. Dollars today are worth more. Question on that? Okay, let's go to the next one, and I think I'll be quiet and see if you can figure out what the next one is. I'm gonna move this over to. Okay, so we have gift. Single payment, so we should be on the single payment table. So make sure that you're on the single payment table. If it says annuity, you're on the wrong table. Okay, so let's see here. It's for 5 periods and 5 years. And the interest rate is 10%. Okay, so it'll be 5 years. What? Oh. Oh, undo. 10%. Okay, so 5 years is on the single payment table. So 5 years, 10%. So each dollar is gonna be worth around 62 cents. So it's 0.621. So this is from the table. Okay, so let's look at 1 and 2. And notice that the value is quite different. Why? Grandma's giving us 1,000, or giving her grandkid $1,000 in both cases. But in the first case, it's worth 840, and in the second case, it's worth 621. Why? Why is the second one so much lower?
Because amount of time
Yep.
and the interest.
Yep and yep. Perfect. Both of them. Yeah, if you look at this table, you'll notice something. As the interest rate goes up, and think about inflation. You know, the higher the inflation, the less the money's gonna be worth in the future. So, for instance, you know, at 1%, just your dollar is going to buy what a dollar a year from now will buy the same thing as 99 cents dollars buys today. Okay, that's not too bad. You go up to 11%, and it's only 90%. You know, so or 90 cents. So, what you can buy with a dollar a year from now, you can buy for 90 cents today. And as you go up, see, as the inflation increases, your dollar becomes worth less and less and less. And you'll also notice that going down the page, you know, as time goes on. So for instance, at one period at 10%, there's about 91 cents. 91 cents today will buy the same thing a year from now. As time goes on, it becomes worth less and less and less. And if you go down all the way to the bottom, you can see at some point it becomes, you know, almost, you know, is that 10%? No. A dollar At 10%, a dollar, 40 years from now is worth about 2 cents, a little bit more than 2 cents. So for 2 cents today, if the inflation rate is at 10%, you can buy for 2 cents, but you'll buy for a dollar. You know, so you you go into McDonald's, you're going to spend $500. but again, those aren't they aren't going to be the same dollars. You know, so time and the interest rate have a major impact on me. Okay, I think we're going to, I'm going to stop there. We'll go. We'll do this. We'll start up here. I'm going to put here that we stopped on this page. Okay. Okay, so we're just gonna that's kind of an introduction to time value of money, and but we're gonna do obviously a lot more with that. So next week we'll pick up there, and so what's going on today will be I will send you out the something I have not sharing with you. I will send out the I don't have it on here. What did I say it was? For April 28th. We're near the end here. Okay, so I'll send out the exam tomorrow. I might get it out tonight, but soon by tomorrow I'll have it out. And it'll be due on April 28th. Change my date here to May. That's not right. Hey. Okay, so that'll be it. Obviously, hold on to this handout. We're not done with it. We'll be doing more of this. This will probably be the last chapter. I'm not sure. We might get into activities-based counting, but the more I'm looking at this, will probably be the last chapter that we do. And this stuff actually is the more important stuff, anyways. Not that activity-based costing isn't. It's not. The activity-based costing isn't really a management decision. It's just a costing thing. But anyway, we will. So we'll pick up our next week class. Any questions? Okay. Well, I will talk to you guys in a week. One thing is a little bit different. If you want to contact me for my office hours on Friday, go ahead and email me. The office hours are at noon and 6. That's in Blackboard. But you can also email me for office hours anytime. If I can do it, we'll, we can make arrangements. So The office hours are not, while those office hours are available and we have to post them, if we can do other hours, that's fine too. So if those hours don't work for you, you want to try it some other time, that's fine too. Any questions? Okay. Have a good night, guys.
Good night. Thank you.
Have a good one.